fun. I've known him for a while. He's just a fun dude. Very talented musically too. Um, well, I will throw us up on Facebook. I'll tell you how many suggestions, and then you just pick a number, and then
All
we
right.
and then we just go. And however you want to play it, like it's 10 minutes to me. It's 10 minutes of fun. So
Yeah, it works for me too. I,
um,
I've watched maybe a dozen of these so far, so I have a sense of, where you're going with it.
you get the gist of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, cool. Let's see. Ba-ba-da-ba. We have one, two, three, four, five, six. Oh, awesome. We've got 12 suggestions. So pick a number between 1 and 12.
12.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wait, I take it back. I've never heard anybody pick one. One. I'm
I
picking
take
one.
it back. I love it. It's like 12. No, 1.
Well, I feel bad for the people that post first and they never get picked. So,
I love it. So our suggestion comes from good friend Michelle Gilliam, and it is jaywalking is our suggestion. Jaywalking,
all right. Well,
thanks,
what
Michelle.
what better for the two of us?
Right?
All right. No, don't. You can't cross here.
What? Oh, oh, thank you. My head was in the clouds. I was about to. I wasn't even thinking. Thank you so much.
Well, I know there's no cars going by, but
Yeah.
there's a cop hiding behind that mailbox, and he just tags everybody who jaywalks.
Oh my God, that's how they make money in this town.
That's the only way. It's a town that doesn't tax anybody. There's no taxes. Terrific, right? You move here because there's no taxes.
We got
Right?
to make money.
All the revenue for the town is catching jaywalkers.
Yeah, they got to make money somehow. I respect that. But thank you. Yeah, my man,
So you're
today's been a strange
you're new
day.
here. You're new here.
Yeah. In fact, I just moved, and I'm really just trying to find my way around. And what's funny is like, I moved from New York, and New York's one of the only cities
To here?
also. Yeah, to be here, and like
Wow.
they're one of the cities also that give out tickets for jaywalking. A lot of big cities don't do that, but they do. So I should know better. Thank you.
Uh, glad to help. I imagine in New York, there's never a time when there aren't cars on the road.
Oh man, and you know what? Like I got an attitude when I was in New York where I would cross in front of cars and I didn't care. I found I was getting really hard. My personality was hardened, and so I wanted to move somewhere that was low key, where it wasn't as busy. And I just took a map of the U.S. and I closed my eyes and I put my finger on a town, and here
Here
I
we are in
am.
Bug Tussle.
Yeah, and like first off, could not be a better name for a town.
No, no, I guess not.
Do you know the origin? Do you know the like origination of the name? Because there's always usually a
I
fun story.
I heard it, right, but I don't believe it. Right? And the
And do
story
tell.
is
Yeah.
that Jedediah, the founder of the town, was also a bit of a drunk, and
As they are.
that as he was coming along on the road, he kind of lied down and was just relaxing or whatever it is that you do when you've had too much, and he noticed that there were two insects on the road struggling with each other
Tussling.
and tussling, right? And so he decided that spot was a place he was going to call Bug Tussle, and he stayed there and built a little general store inn so that people who were passing through could buy
Load
something, have a
up.
place to sleep at night. And they didn't have gasoline back then, right? But you get oats for your horse, and
Oh yeah, I
that's
meant like load up on supplies and things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and alcohol, right? Load up on alcohol.
I mean, yeah, double meaning.
Because that was Jedediah, and that's how the town got its name.
Wow. You know what's funny is I thought it was that. I'm like, but then you always meet. I've traveled a whole bunch, and you go to towns where you're like, oh, Three Rivers, that's because there are three rivers here. And it's like, well, no, actually, it's because there were, and then you realize, oh, it's not the, what is that? I
Right.
think it's Occam's razor, right? Isn't that like
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. The simplest explanation, usually the best, but you're in
usually
a town
that?
named Three Rivers, and it's because Billy, Charlie, and Tommy Rivers moved there.
Thank you. And I'm like, but what's funny is you also have three rivers that intersect. They're like, no, 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 it's because of the Rivers family. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I think everything happens for a reason too. I think
uh,
you stopped me from crossing because we were destined to meet. And moving to moving to a small town is, you're always worried about who you're going to meet and like what kind of people are there. And sometimes you see the town and you're like, oh, this town looks great, and sometimes it's not, and vice versa. Sometimes the town doesn't look great, and the people are great, and it makes it great. So yeah, I think we were destined to come into contact with each other. I mean, literally come into contact. You stopped me from getting a ticket.
I'm glad to do it. It's just a neighborly thing to do, and I didn't recognize you, and I know the other seven people from town, so you know.
Oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no, it's just, I'm done with my thought. That you were new, so glad to help.
That's interesting. Like you're like, okay, I'm finished, and I'm used to people talking for a long time and almost talking at you, and and this is in the this is a I want you to take this as a compliment because it is like you're just simple, and that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a simpler lifestyle.
Well, you can't find a simpler lifestyle than bug tussle.
Wow. And now it seems to me that you've got family, and I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jebediah was your great grandfather? Great. I have a feeling that you're related to him.
Great, great, great.
I knew it. I knew it because the way you told that story, and then we started talking. It was like, wait a minute, you're related to the guy who named the town.
Well, I think you're the only person in town not related to him.
Well, yeah. I mean, you would know more than I would about that.
Because the other seven people in the town besides you and me are my cousins.
And you never wanted to leave, huh? You never, or maybe you did.
I did. I spent 3 years in Cairo. I just like thought, what's the most different place from in the world from
What?
Bug Tussle? I went to Cairo, and interesting point. In Cairo, there's no jaywalking. They don't even stop the cars. What you do when you're crossing the street is you try to time it so that you go from lane to lane to lane as cars are zooming by,
Like Frogger, like the video game Frogger.
like the video game Frogger. And they were joking about the song "Walk Like an Egyptian" because they don't do this. That
Yeah.
they jump through the traffic.
Wow. It's amazing that you went there, experienced something completely different, and then realized you wanted to come back home. Or did you go somewhere else? I'm just assuming.
Oh no! 3 years at Cairo was enough for me, and I really intended to stay there and make a good go of it, but too many people smoked in elevators there, and so I came back.
Wow. I mean, I guess it's a sign.
Yeah.
Wow. And how did you decide upon Cairo? Of all the places in the world, what made you, did you just have this image that that was the place that was going to give you an experience completely different than here?
Jedediah's son Simon, who was my great great grandfather, had a method of solving things. He would throw a dart. Cairo.
That's kind of like what I did.
That's how you end up in Bug Tussle? You threw a dart?
I put a map of the U.S. I have a map of the U.S. that I laid out on a drafting table. I'm an architect, and I had a drafting table, and I said, "This is it." Like I'll never forget. It was clear as day. I was like, "I'm done with this town. I'm done with New York. Like it's too much for me." And I unrolled a map of the U.S. And I said, wherever I was going to throw a dart, and I go, that seems like it's too dramatic. So instead, I go, I didn't want to go for some reason. I wanted to stay in the U.S. and I'm like, wherever my finger lands is where I'm going to go. And I spun around 3 times, and then I went, bam, and I looked, and it gave me the metro area, and I'm like, I don't want to go. I didn't want to go to Louisville. And I'm like, I want to go somewhere that's nearby, like I want in that area. So then I got another map of the Louisville metropolitan area. And I did the same thing, and then it got me a little bit closer, but I was still in. It was like it was still
Suburbs,
in,
right?
It was still in the suburbs. I'm like, I don't want to go. So I got another map that expanded that world, and then it went to Bug Tussle, which is it's
Right here.
3. I did 3, which is like your great 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 grandfather. I mean, this is not a coincidence.
No, definitely not. I also did 3, but my first 2 ended up in the ocean.
I mean, then that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be hard. I mean, it'd be like Castaway. It'd be like a Tom Hanks situation, and
Yeah, and I at the time I thought, people. I want more people.
right.
And the people in Cairo were lovely. I loved them, but after 3 years, I was ready for the relative solitude of Bug Tussle again.
Well, hey, it's great to meet you.
Yeah, you want to go to the only little diner in town?
Yeah, I got
All
nothing
right.
but time.
They got grilled cheese there like you wouldn't believe,
Yes.
and nothing else.
I don't need nothing else. Scene.
That was great, Jay.
That was so fun.
Yeah, you've got an imagination that just flows. That's a giant plus.
Oh my God, it was so fun playing with you. And also, I knew whatever would happen, you were gonna yes and it and go with it. So I knew my imagination could go wild because no matter what I said, you weren't gonna be thrown by it.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit earlier before we came on. Your background is actually in Commedia Dell'arte.
Yes, that's right.
And what got you involved? Because I said it's like sisters, and you said it's like grandmother, grandchild, and I think that's a closer analogy because I think that's more accurate. Like, what got you into Comedia to start with?
Well, the short version is that a bunch of us were who kind of study the Middle Ages got together and did a production of Much Ado About Nothing. And we liked the camaraderie and all that, but there was a certain fraction of us that did not want to memorize lines.
Amen.
And so one of us, a friend of mine named Sebastian, said we should form a Commedia Dell'arte troupe, and that was 31 years ago. And we said, okay, let's do it. We practiced and eventually started putting on shows. As a group, we put on over 300 shows now.
My God.
And it's a lot of fun, right? And it also satisfies my interest in history.
What, for those who might not be familiar, tell them what Commedia Dell'arte is, and if you can make the bridge to improv, that'd be great too.
Sure. Well, so in short, you end up with or start with a play that's described basically as an outline where you have a description of entrances and exits and essential plot points that have to be hit. And a 75-minute play is going to be 4 or 5 pages long. And that you have to improvise everything else, that there are going to be some things where, Charlie, he does this hilarious bit, very physical, where he flips over and he jumps, or he pretends that he's really hungry and he eats himself or something, right?
Yeah.
And so okay, well, we have some of those bits we want to lead up to. So let's see, this scene here looks like a great scene to drop in that action, or lazzo, we would call it. And so there's a lot of improvising, but improvising knowing you have to get to a thing where somebody's going to do their special bit, and that, at the end of the scene, it's got to resolve that somebody's unhappy and somebody else thinks they've won, and so on, right? And so in pure improv, like what Parallelogram of Phonograph does with their long-form narrative, they don't know what they're doing to start with. They just say, well, you know, once upon a time there was this guy, and every day he did this, and then until one day this happened, and then this and this and this and this, and then finally, and every day after that, right? So they have their structure that they play to. Great. I love them and I watch them a lot, right? But with Comedia, you have the outline and you can kind of jump into the action very rapidly.
Wow. And so you're, in a way, it's kind of, I guess, what Larry David draws on when he does Curb, which is, we got to get to this point. We got to do something here. Whatever we've established before is still the truth, but we're going to do this, which will lead us here. We just don't know how it's going to get there.
Right. Yeah. And that's the basic gist of it. And, you know, that there's stock characters that in every play, there's, you know, a certain group of characters you draw from. And over the history of Commedia, that they added to the group of characters and dropped some of the old-fashioned ones off. But, you know, in general, you know, there's the millionaire and his wife, and the skipper, and the clever servant girl, and the professor, and the goofy guy, and the movie star. And that
it's like it's Gilligan's Island.
Well, yeah. So naturally, I described it like Gilligan's Island, but Sherwood Schwartz was thinking Comedia when he wrote Gilligan's Island. I mean, there's no question about it, because
it's
in
archetypes.
Comedia, yeah. In Comedia, there's the Dottore, who's this windbag of a professor, and there's the Capitano, who is invading Spanish army or occupying Spanish army guy. And there's Pantalone, who is the rich merchant, and there's Arlecchino or Harlequin, who's the goofy servant, Gilligan, essentially. Yeah. And you know, there's the earthy servant girl, and the sweet amorosa, who's, you know, is in love, and her boyfriend, whoever that is, and it's you know, Gilligan's Island is less ribald than Comedia.
Yeah.
But you know, and that's kind of it, right? And so in Comedia, some of the characters wear masks. So this is the Dottore's mask, the old professor guy. Yes. And that, you know, also wear some hat that makes it a little Renaissance-y.
Wow. Have you taught any Commedia classes tailored for improvisers? Because I think that's a great skill, and also knowing the history of it, I think would be really valuable.
So I haven't yet. I think that's a good idea. I've taught a lot of Commedia classes, but generally aimed at either young people or people that are interested in putting together a troupe, right? So that if you know, there are people, a place where you see Commedia troupes these days would be at Ren fairs or something like that.
Right.
And so, you know, if somebody's interested in knowing enough about it to, you know, put together something for a Ren fair troupe or something like that, I could teach them. And that's basically it for, you know, what I do. There's people in Italy that are teaching the stylistic movement of Commedia. And that, they show up here in the U.S. sometimes for, you know, week-long intensives or something like that. But there's a guy named Antonio Fava who is well known for that. And I don't want to step on his toes. He's just great. Right? So,
So you did Comedia for so long. What made the transition, or how did you start then making it more into improv? Was there a moment where you're like, oh, I want to do more improv things, or is it just a natural progression for you? Or
so I blame COVID-19, really.
Yes.
That I've been aware of improv and kind of doing improv stuff because, you know, since the beginning of what we were doing for Comedia, we had to play improv games, right? And so. You know, that we did, you know, some of the games that we saw on Whose Line Is It Anyway and whatnot. And occasionally one of us would, you know, be someplace where we would say, oh, there's like an improv class here or there. And so, you know, one of us would attend an improv class and not gear up to be a full, part of an improv team because we were doing Comedia. We loved Comedia. Right?
Training. You just were like supplemental training.
Right, because it's a necessary skill. This is yes and is critical, right? If you're gonna not let the energy of a scene, nosedive, you have to understand what makes the scene stay up, right?
Yeah.
And you have to understand how do you have an exchange, and how do you get over this stupid thing where you have to ask a question, right? Because asking a question, unless it's a rhetorical question that your partner can ignore, the scene disappears when he has to ponder what the answer might be.
Interesting.
And all these things are straight from John Stone and his work. And then one year, about 15 years ago, I for work ended up in Austin, Texas, and there I started hanging out at the Hideout. I had a connection to the Hideout already because there had been a Commedia festival that occurred in 2001, and our group performed the night of September 11th, 2001 in the Hideout.
Wow.
And,
oh, wow.
So it left a mark, but it was a great show.
Wow.
There was a need for comic relief, apparently.
Yes.
Wow.
So you started doing stuff there.
Yeah, well, playing a little bit, not a lot, because I was busy, and parking is a problem there.
Dude, I'm in LA. I get it.
But that's where I met Roy Janik and a bunch of the other people that are involved with the Hideout now.
And are you performing or doing anything online? Are you doing shows or going to jams or anything like that?
So the troupe that I'm in, which we call I Sebastiani, is doing a live Commedia show based on one of the books from Flaminio Scala's collection of Commedia scenarios that we've never done before. It's called The Postman. All of the shows are basically romantic comedies where there's some problem with communicating and misunderstandings. So August 2nd, that's Sunday, at 6:45 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be performing that. Now, we haven't created the Facebook event yet, but the link to it, you'll be able to find it at that URL.
Oh, that's great. And are you going to put that up, I'm assuming, also on your Facebook page? And
Oh, yeah.
and if people want to find out more about that, they can follow you on Facebook or check out that website, or are there other ways too?
Eventually there will be, but for now, that's all I'm offering.
Oh, well, Jay, this was awesome. I learned so much, and it was so fun playing with you, and I cannot wait to do it again, whether it's live or virtually.
I agreed, and if you don't mind, I'll recommend this to one or two of my co-stars, and that you'll love them. They are wonderful people.
I would love it. Anybody, recommend anybody, have them reach out to me through Facebook, and I'd love to play with them. That sounds great.
That sounds great. Jay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
You are a huge asset to this world right now.
Oh, man. Thanks, Jay. I really appreciate that. It was so fun. I'll talk to you soon.
Very good.
See you, buddy.
Bye.